Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
And what is up, you guys? Welcome in. It has been a slog of an offseason. I mean, this is how it is every single year in Major League Baseball. The season ends, the World Series comes to a close, late October, maybe the first week of November, and we are all hyped and excited to see what our teams are going to do to improve, who's going to be here, who's not going to be here anymore. And then we fall into this portion of the year, right around in between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And there have been almost no moves to talk about all across the league, not specifically only with our New York Mets. Really, the most notable one being the Brandon Nimmo trade for Marcus Semien. Of course, Dylan Cease signing with Blue Jays about 2 weeks ago. So there have been a couple tiny little breadcrumbs along the way, but not the big marquee guys out there that we're hoping. So today we're going to recap the MLB winter meetings first day. Really nothing happened, but the day's not over. We know sometimes these deals happen at midnight or even later on the East Coast. They're down in Florida this year. And we're also going to take a look at some trade proposal ideas from other fans using MLBTradeValues.com. So I'm excited to do this. I don't know if anybody else has trade ideas that they want to talk about here, but it is an open forum. Q&A here. Everybody can talk whatever they want to talk about, Mets-wise, baseball-wise, and hopefully we'll have some good thoughts, ideas on how the Mets can get back into being a playoff contending team for 2026. Gabe, what is up, my man? I'm glad you made it to the chat. I always enjoy getting your comments on all my videos saying, hi, Tony. Hi, Gabe. Good to see you, man. I'm so glad that you joined. I appreciate you're a loyal follower, loyal commenter, so glad to see you in here. So we're going to get into it here pretty soon. My man Armand is in the chat. Armand is basically my statistician at this point. For those of you that don't know, Armand is always on top of it, either giving me tweets from reporters that I might not be up to snuff on at the moment or giving me stats, numbers on players' contracts. Armand is the man. How about them Jets? Yeah, our Jets, pathetic. I mean, just absolutely brutal game yesterday, right? That game was over after the opening drive when you saw the Dolphins just absolutely running down their throat. Armand, that was brutal. I barely watched after that first drive, if I'm being completely honest, but it is what it is. So today we're going to talk about a couple things. First, let's kind of recap what happened here in Orlando, I should say, on day one of the MLB winter meetings. And like I said in the beginning of the stream, it was a real big nothing burger. Almost nothing happened whatsoever today. So we'll go to MLB trade rumors now. The Mets did make a signing today, for those of you that are not aware, a big one in the form of Carl Edwards Jr. And when I say big, it's because he's a big guy. He's about 6'6", if I remember, something like that. Huge dude. And he has been pitching in the minors most recently. I don't know if it's working on your end, guys. YouTube is showing that it's not still streaming for me, but I do see that it's okay on my computer. So hopefully it's okay. It looks like YouTube came back now, but it looks like it's a little blurry. Hopefully we're going to be okay here. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section how it's looking over here. Hopefully it's okay. Armand, yeah, the Rule 5 draft. I don't know how many guys really get selected typically. It's something I probably should have brushed up on. We know that the Mets protected Nick Morabito from the Rule 5 draft because they didn't want him to potentially get selected by another team. But I think most of us are pretty well versed in how it works. If a team selects a Rule 5 eligible player from another team, they must roster them on their MLB roster for the entire season. So one good example last year who was selected off of the Mets roster was Mike Vasil, who was picked by the Chicago White Sox and actually turned in a really good season as a reliever for them. I think he had a 2.50 ERA for the Southsiders. So that's one that you look back on and you kind of regret how nice that could have been to have in the Mets pen or at their disposal, even as a potential opener down the stretch there for them in 2025. But I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of movement on the Rule 5 again because of the implications that are required for picking a Rule 5 player. You got to roster them for the entire season. Otherwise, they get returned to the original organization system. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Armand, I apologize. Hopefully it's better now. It definitely looks like it has improved now on YouTube's end. That's on there, and I have everything working over here just fine. But Let me know in the comment section if it does look good. I'm also going to put a poll in here because the other thing that we heard today was Kyle Schwarber and the Mets. So John Heyman kind of started this all in the morning when he reported that the Mets have interest in Kyle Schwarber. And we already kind of knew that the Mets were interested in Schwarber. We had heard the report a couple of weeks ago that they were going to be in on him and that they were monitoring his situation. But we all kind of know it's not realistic to believe the Mets could both sign Kyle Schwarber and bring Pete Alonso back, because we know the Mets have essentially said they'd like Pete back, number one, at their price, and number two, under their circumstances, which means him DHing more often. And we, of course, know Kyle Schwarber is a permanent designated hitter. He has played in the field 13 times combined over the last 2 seasons, but we keep getting these reports, and the more and more I keep hearing that the Mets are interested in Schwarber, the more realistic that it is becoming to me. And I don't know if it's actually going to happen. They have not done it yet, but to see Schwarber spurn the Phillies for their arch rival, us, the New York Mets, is crazy to me. And honestly, I will not believe it until I see Schwarber holding up a blue and orange Mets jersey at a press conference. But again, we keep hearing it. It started with John Heyman this morning, who revealed it in his article for the New York Post. And then we heard Mike Mayer, who is a great reporter for Metsmerized Online, say that he has spoken with multiple industry sources who have said that the Mets have, quote, legit interest in Schwarber. Now, I look at this 2 ways. Either the Mets really are interested in Schwarber and they do want to bring him in, or they're doing this for negotiating tactics, and in 2 different forms. Number one, in the form of Pete Alonso. The Mets are interested in Schwarber. All of a sudden, maybe Pete starts to perk up a little bit. We know that Pete is playing his own game. He is driving from his home in Tampa up to Orlando today to meet with the Orioles and with the Red Sox camps tomorrow. So Pete's playing the game just like the Mets are, but this could be the Mets trying to get Pete to kind of get moving in the direction of making a decision, taking or denying the Mets offer, or coming back with a counter offer. Because let's be honest, if Schwarber is the first domino off the board, which a lot of experts have predicted he will be the first big one, then the Mets are left with Pete. And that's fine. But if Pete decides, you know what, I got a better offer from Boston, I got a better offer from Baltimore, the Mets could find themselves empty-handed in terms of finding that power production that they're going to be missing in that case. So hopefully that's part of this. They're trying to get Pete to make his decision, or at least give them an idea of where he's sitting at. Number two, and this is something I didn't think about, I'll give credit to someone that commented about it on MLBTradeRumors.com comment section. This is only going to jack the price up for the Phillies if they do want to, in fact, bring Kyle Schwarber back. And I love that the Mets could jack the price up, show all this interest, get the reporters to continuously put them in the mix for Schwarber. Can you imagine the Phillies if they lost Schwarber to the Mets, the fans, how that general manager Dombrowski and the owner would react to losing Kyle Schwarber to the Mets? I mean, that is a power move. The Mets improve themselves, but the Phillies get significantly worse, missing arguably, I would say, the most important piece of their lineup. You don't replace 56 home runs. Those 50 home run hitters don't just grow on trees, and I think we all know that. So at the very least, even if this is feigned interest, even if this is posturing from the Mets, hopefully this is going to continue to bring that price up so that if his heart really truly is in Philadelphia, maybe they have to go to a 5th year. Maybe they have to give him an extra $5 to $6 million of average annual value, and that cripples them and their ability to improve their roster in other areas. So I think it's good business all around from David Stearns. We will see. Who knows? Like I said, a lot of experts have been saying they believe Schwarber is going to be the first big position player name off of the board, and that could set the rest of the market in motion. So we shall see. Armand, let me know, my man, how is the stream looking? It looks much better here on my side of things. So let's get to the chat. Yankees Girl, is this only for Mets fans? Because if it is, I'm leaving. No, definitely not. This is an open forum. We're talking all things baseball. It's obviously going to be more Mets-centric, but we're talking all things baseball. I don't tout myself as a hater. Obviously, I don't like the Yankees, but I'm not going to tell you to leave. So I'm happy that you're here, Yankees Girl. And please, if you have any questions, thoughts, I will talk Yankees with you as well and see how we can kind of intervene it with the Mets as well. Armand says, I was watching a Red Sox fan podcast last night, and they said the John Henry and the Red Sox don't want to go over $265 million luxury tax. Yeah, so the Red Sox have definitely become a little more frugal over the last couple of years, pretty much since Theo Epstein left. Now, obviously, they spent buku bucks in 2018, signed JD Martinez, won that World Series that year. But really after that, they are going all in that season. They have definitely taken their foot off the pedal as far as spending. Part of that because I think the Red Sox are now partially owned by the Manchester United group. They're one of those teams that is now kind of intertwined with all the different professional sporting clubs around the world, kind of like the owners of the Flyers that were rumored to be interested in purchasing the Mets at one point, something I was never interested in. But yeah, if the Red Sox do not want to go over that $265 million luxury tax number, well, then maybe there is a way for the Mets to pry something away from them. I think that Jarren Duran is still very affordable. We know that they have the surplus in the outfield, so it does make me wonder if the Mets could be in on Duran, if they could be in on Wilyer Abreu. We know they just traded for Sonny Gray. We know they just acquired what's his name? Oh my gosh, how am I forgetting the lefty name? You know who I'm talking about last year. Oh my gosh, how could I forget his name? Yeah, anyway. They have a rotation that is starting to look pretty impressive, probably the deepest in the American League East, at least in my opinion. I mean, the Yankees are right up there with them as well. But I did see a report today that the Red Sox could be interested in trading from some of that depth in their rotation. Now, I don't think there's going to be someone in there that they're willing to trade that is going to be a significant upgrade over what the Mets already have. The Mets are obviously looking for an ace, for a big name guy, as you saw on the thumbnail, Freddie Peralta, Tariq Skubal. Whether those guys will be traded or not, I still don't know. I don't think anybody, because it seems on a week-to-week basis, we hear reports from John Heyman, from Jeff Passan, from all the big MLB insiders that are saying Tariq Skubal is not getting traded next week. The Tigers are leaning more toward trading Tariq Skubal now. Then you hear it about Freddie Peralta. They don't want to trade him. They just got his $8 million club option done. They accepted it. Now they're opening the door to potentially trading Freddie Peralta. So I don't know where things stand with that. I think that either of those teams would have to be blown away with a deal. Crochet, thank you, Garrett Crochet. So yes, they have an impressive rotation. And again, I don't know that there's a lot of names in that Red Sox rotation as far as they're further down the line of depth, starting pitchers that would really interest or be a significant upgrade over the Mets. Bella would be someone that I would love, extremely affordable, team-friendly contract. I think the Red Sox would be crazy to trade him. If anybody could be a testament to needing as much starting pitching as you can, it is the 2025 Mets. So hopefully they heed the advice of all the pain and suffering that we just went through this past season. But let's see. Yankees girl, I guess it is. I'm out. A Yankees girl don't care about the Mets at all. All right, well, you clicked on it. Andrew Golden of the Washington Post reported the Yanks have interest in Nats starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore. Okay, so Gore is a name that has been mentioned, obviously. I did a video on Mackenzie Gore this weekend, and I got to be honest, it's not happening for the Mets. It's just not happening. One, he is in the division with the Mets. Obviously, the Nationals are going to look for the world for him, which is what's been reported. We know that they just got a new general manager. They fired Davey Martinez in the middle of this past season, and now they have some kid that's like 25 years old managing the team. All right, exaggeration, but not much older than me, maybe 33, 35, something like that. And so they are going full-blown into a new rebuild mode. And my guess would be that James Wood might be the only untouchable player on the Nationals roster at this point. So Mackenzie Gore's name has been thrown out there, but they are number one looking for an enormous return in terms of prospects for him. And number two, the Mets would have to pay an in-division rival tax for Mackenzie Gore. So I cannot see it happening with the Mets. And I'm going to be honest, he has been extremely underwhelming since debuting. This is a guy that was the former third overall pick in baseball, a guy that was touted to be a number one in a rotation for years to come. And it's still possible it happens, but he's 28 years old. He has 2 years of control left, and he has a career 4.19 earned run average to this point. So while he has shown flashes like the first half of last year, the second half was equally as bad, where he ended up injured, missed the first 3 weeks of September, and had an ERA above 6 in the second half. So Mackenzie Gore does not do it for me. Maybe there will be a change of scenery, and it will all kind of pan out for him, and he will eventually live up to that hype, but I do not see it happening in Queens. Very sad Mets fan. Hi, Tony. What's up, Tony? Or sad Mets fan. How you doing? Say hi if you see I'm here. I see you, sad Mets fan. What's up, my man? I think we're all pretty sad Mets fans based on how last season went, right? I'm right there with you. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you very much. Henry Campos, how about signing Pete and going after Bregman? Still an opportunity there. I love that idea, and I have said it since the offseason began. I would love to sign Alex Bregman. I don't see it in the cards for the Mets, unfortunately. I think he's a leader. I think he's clutch. He is a winner, guy that came up, obviously, with that Houston quote-unquote dynasty, if you want to call it that. And then, obviously, went and played with the Red Sox last year and had a pretty good season despite a couple of stints on the injured list. So I would love Bregman. I think he is a great fielder, still at third base, only a year removed from a Gold Glove in 2024. There have been no inklings of him being connected to the Mets. And we just heard today from Carlos Mendoza, actually, that the Mets do plan to give the majority of time at third base to Brett Baty this upcoming season. Now, that can change. It is December 8th. They could go out and sign Bregman. They could go out and trade for somebody for third. They could trade Baty, and that entire plan can change. But at the moment right now, their plan is to see if Baty is legitimate based on what he did in the second half and what he did sporadically, admittedly, throughout the 2025 season. But I like the idea, Henry. I've always been a fan of Bregman. I would love it. I think it improves the infield defense. Even if you put Baty at first base, you know, that is a way to potentially replace what you would get from Pete Alonso. I mean, sign Schwarber to be your DH, sign Bregman to be your third baseman, put Brett Baty at first base, and go from there. I mean, I think that is a better team and lineup than what they trotted out last season. Tell me I'm wrong. I think that is a better team, better lineup, better infield defense than what the Mets had in 2025 with Pete at first, with the rotating door of Baty, Vientos, and even Mauricio at times at third base in 2025. So just my opinion, but let's see. Armand says, per Sean McAdam, Red Sox have fielded calls on Hunter Dobbins, Cutter, Crawford, and Patrick Sandoval. Okay, I'm going to be honest, man. I've heard a couple. I know I've heard Patrick Sandoval. I think he was a pitcher who was with the Angels at one point. Top prospect that never panned out. And then I have heard Cutter Crawford. I don't think I've heard of Hunter Dobbins. So I'll have to do some research on them and see if they make sense at all for this team. Let's do this now. This is really the main impetus of this video. MLB trade values, and I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar with this website. You go in, you can plug in some different trades, see if it makes sense based on the values that each of these players are assigned. It factors in their age, their contract length, the cost of their contract, all of those different things. So we got a couple about the Mets here that I want to take a look at, and we're going to go through them. We're going to see if they make sense for the Mets. And some of these are really good. Some of these are kind of laughable, if I'm being honest, but we're going to go through them all, and we're not going to really call anybody out. But like I said, some of them are pretty wild. So let's go ahead, plug this in, and drop your guys' trade proposals down below. It could be anything Mets related. It could be anything baseball related. I want to hear from you guys. And I'm actually going to put this in real quick as a poll real quick. Would you guys rather the Mets re-sign Pete Alonso or Kyle Schwarber? Let me know. I'm going to put this post up right now. It's going to be a poll in the comment section right here. And leave this video a like if you guys have not already. I really appreciate it. You guys have been awesome. Trying to get to 4K by the end of 2025. I know we're kind of a ways off. We're at 3450, somewhere around there. So about 500 or so off. But share this with a Mets fan in your life, your mother, your brother, your sister, your cousin's cousin. I don't care if they're a Mets fan. This is the place for all your daily Mets content and updates on their offseason this winter. So thank you so much to you guys for all tuning in, for subscribing to the channel, leaving a like on my videos, commenting. Really, really appreciate you all. So here's the poll. I'm going to put it up right now. Would you rather the Mets re-sign Pete Alonso or sign Kyle Schwarber? And I'm not going to put any numbers on it as far as, contracts and everything like that. But I just want to know, as a player, given, let's just say they'll each get 4 years, who would you rather have for the next 4 years? Pete Alonso or Kyle Schwarber? So it is up in the chat now. Go ahead and vote on that. I appreciate y'all very much being here and tuning in with me. So I'll keep an eye on the chat real quick before I do go over to these proposed trades for the Mets on MLBTradeValues.com. Vector says, I saw someone say that moving Elian Pena to second base would fit the Mets timeline better, which would allow the trade Jet Williams to get a more run impact player. I think Elian Pena is probably still like minimum 3 years away. He's drawn comparisons to Juan Soto. He's drawn comparisons to Rafael Devers. I think he's a minimum of 2.5 to 3 years away. I would not expect to see him until like maybe the middle of the 2028 season. So it really just depends. Like, hey, do you believe Jet Williams is going to be an impact player? Like, don't even look at it by position, because Jet can play center field. He can play the outfield corner spots, at least left field for certain. Maybe not right field. I'm not sure about his arm, but he has been playing as a second baseman mostly. But look, you just are trying to, accrue and keep as much talent as you can regardless of position, and then you figure it out from there. And you won't know on Williams until he makes his MLB debut, or you have an idea of what he is based on what he did in the minor leagues. I personally am willing to part with Jet Williams in the right deal. I don't feel that way about Carson Bench. I think Bench is going to be a 20 to 25 home run hitter. I think he's going to be a lot like Pete Crow Armstrong. Wouldn't we like that trade back, right? But in terms of Jet Williams, I just don't know if he's ever going to grow into power and be that, impact MLB player. So he is a guy that I'm definitely willing to move. But the idea of moving Elian Pena, look, I just want him to develop as a hitter and figure out the position after the fact. He came in and was signed as a shortstop. I believe it was last offseason. So I'm excited about him, but he is a couple years still down the line. But it definitely makes sense what you're saying, Vector. Obviously, if you have somebody waiting in the wings eventually, it gives you more leeway to move a guy like Williams, or regardless of whatever position they are playing. So good idea there from you, Vector. Armand is amazing. Great idea one. Kodai Senga and cash to the Astros for Jake Myers and Brian Abreu. Okay, so we have heard Jake Myers' name thrown out there quite a bit. This reminds me so much of the Jake Marisnick trade, and it's kind of unfair, but they both play center field. They are both named Jake, and they are both on the Astros, and I just have such a bad taste from that Jake Marisnick trade in 2020 by Brody Van Wagenen that, I don't know. But Jake Myers, that is a solid defensive outfielder, doesn't bring much with the bat. And then Abreu, I believe, is that reliever, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but let me just look him up really quick and get a look at his stuff. It would depend how much cash is going to end up needing to go back to Houston. So Abreu is 28 years old. Last year, 2.28 earned run average in 70 games. Has been with the team since 2019. Yeah, I mean, one of the better relievers for a long time now, outside of that very small sample size in 2021. But if that was a possibility, I'd do that trade in a heartbeat. Absolutely. It just depends how much money the Mets are going to have to eat on staying his contract. I would think a little bit, a pretty decent chunk of it. Abreu only has 1 year left. I don't know about Myers. You're hoping he's just going to basically be a stopgap, kind of like how Harrison Bader was in that in 2024. But it sounds like the Mets are really okay with going into the season with Tyrone Taylor as their mostly everyday center fielder, and seeing how Carson Bench does in spring training, whether he can win the job directly out of Port St. Lucie or if he's going to need a little more time in AAA. I personally think he'll probably need a little bit more time in Syracuse before the Mets give him the reins in center field in Queens. But Jake Myers would not be a bad fallback plan. Then it just becomes, hey, how are we going to sort the rest of this bench? Obviously, you got 4 spots. One has to go to a backup catcher. Where's Mark Vientos at this point in time? Are we trading him? Is he going to be the permanent DH? There are so many moving pieces that I can't commit to a trade for a guy like Jake Myers, who is a 4th outfielder, when the Mets already have one with Tyrone Taylor in the fold. But not a bad idea at all. I just would need to know what the rest of the pieces are fitting as far as the puzzle that is going to be this offseason for the Mets in 2025, 2026. Armand Abreu, the relief pitcher. Yes, he will be a free agent. Henry says, why not starting Bench in center field opening day? Why wait? Look, if he's ready, yes, absolutely. Bench should be the starting opening day center fielder for the Mets. I am not a scout, a talent evaluator. I cannot tell you, that a guy is ready or not to make the jump from AAA to the big leagues. But everything on paper has told us that he is an extremely talented player and that he's supposed to be an impact player in the big leagues one day. So hopefully that's the case. He comes with first round pedigree. He was David Stearns' first draft pick in 2023. So I'm really excited for him. He comes out of Oklahoma State, which is a baseball haven. I mean, just a hotbed for talent. Noel McLean was his teammate there. They got drafted the same year. Bench was also a two-way player, just like McLean was. McLean ended up deciding that he was going to focus on pitching. That's looking like it was a good choice by him. And Bench decided he'd focus on being a position player. So I'm okay with Benj being the opening day center fielder if he's ready. So that's ultimately going to get decided by Stearns. I hope that the rookie status doesn't factor into it in terms of keeping him down until there's that certain date where he does not get that extra year of control. So hopefully that won't be an issue. And if David Stearns could learn anything from this past season, it's that do not sit on your rookies because you want to keep them for an extra year in 2033. Okay, because had you called Nolan McLean up a week earlier and he had made one more start or two more starts in August, the Mets are probably in the playoffs last year. Not that I think they were going anywhere, but they probably avoid the embarrassment of that epic collapse. So I hear you, Henry. We'll see how things go. Spring training, I think, is going to be pivotal to how this whole center field situation dictates itself. All right, let's go over here to MLB trade rumors real quick and take a look at some of these trades. And like I said, these are all fan-made, and some of them are good, some of them are close, some of them are pretty out there and wild, and some of them I love, some of them I hate. So let's get into it. The very first one involves the Mets and the Padres, where the Mets are getting Nick Pivetta, the starting pitcher who was just announced today the Padres may be willing to sell on. Now, he is an interesting case because he is under contract for 3 more years, but he has an opt-out after this season, and it was backloaded. So this is an interesting one where he's coming off a really good season. We also heard that the Padres were interested in potentially moving one of their former top players in Jake Cronenworth, who has really kind of fallen off a cliff over the past couple of years. He signed an extension early on in his career as well. And in return, the Mets would be sending Ronnie Mauricio, David Peterson, and Kodai Senga. So total value here, the Padres are getting 17.4. Just, it's a generic number that they have assigned based on each player's value here. You don't need to get too into the weeds of it. Just understand that the Padres are getting 17.4 in total value. The Mets are getting 15 in value. And that's because Jake Cronenworth, given his contract, given his recent track record, is worth -5. This does not work for me. This is not a trade that I would do. This is not a trade that David Stearns would do. So you have nothing to worry about. They want Jake Cronenworth in this trade so that the money kind of equals out. But here's the thing. One, I'm not trading Ronnie Mauricio in what is kind of like a dump-off trade to me. I like Ronnie. I have proposed him in a lot of trades so far this offseason, but this would not be the one. Mainly because you're sending 2 important pieces of your rotation, at least as it stands right now. And that could all change. But David Peterson has 1 year left. And yes, crapped the bed in the second half. I think he ran out of gas. By far the most innings he has ever thrown in a single season. I have hopes that he is going to bounce back. I am open to trading him in the right deal, but not in a deal that's also going to send Kodai Senga out. I mean, we're taking away 2/5 of our starting rotation here. And while we are just left to wonder what either of those guys are going to be in 2025, I don't think I could send off both of them in the same deal, especially not with what was once a top prospect in Ronnie Mauricio, who just really hasn't gotten a fair shake so far. I like Nick Pivetta. It's a risky contract. Like I said, 3 years left. He has an opt-out after this season. He's coming off a really good 2025 campaign, but he does have it backloaded. So let's say he got injured this year. Let's say he had a really poor season this 2026. He's going to opt in, and the Mets are going to be stuck with a more expensive contract for the final 2 years of his deal. I like Pivetta. I'd still find a way to make it work if I could, but if you're also going to straddle me with Jake Cronenworth's contract, that's just going to be a no-go for me. So this is a no for me on this Mets-Padres trade. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat over here. I want to hear what you have to say. Armand says Pivetta has 2 player opt-outs after the season, an opt-out for 27 and for 28. There you go. Exactly. Pivetta's making $19 million this year. If he opts in for 27, he'll make $14 million. And in 28, he'll make $18 million if he opts in. So there you go. Like I said, my statistician Armand is on top of it. $14 million in 2027 if he opts in. $18 million if he opts in for 2028. So, yeah, for me, I like the idea of Pivetta, but not if you're also going to try to straddle me with the Jake Cronenworth contract. So that's a no for me, dog, in the words of Randy Jackson. Mets Tigers, I know you guys want to hear this one, right? The Tariq Skubal sweepstakes. Are they going to happen? Are the Tigers going to trade Skubal? I don't know. I don't think anyone truly knows. Like I said in the beginning, I think they need to be blown away by an offer. And I'm just going to say it. This ain't it. All right, this is not going to get it. And you can tell by the 4 thumbs down on the side here of the Tigers, on the Tigers side of the trade here. None for the Mets, but no thumbs up either. The Mets get Tariq Skubal, and in return, they send Mark Vientos, Nick Morabito, Jacob Reimer, Jonah Tong, and Will Watson. Now, the Tigers are actually getting a little more value based on what MLB Trade Values has assigned each of these players. They're getting 66.6. The Mets are getting 60.6 in the form of Skubal. But let's be honest, if you saw that the Mets made this trade breaking news on Twitter or wherever you get your news, you'd be doing a dance, right? You would not bat an eye at making this trade. Yes, it hurts to lose Jonah Tong, but you're not losing Carson Benj. You're not losing Jet Williams. You're not also losing Brandon Sprode or, any of the, obviously no Nolan McLean in this trade. You would do this trade 1,000,000 times out of 1,000,000 if you're the Mets. Mark Vientos, we know. What is he? Can't figure it out. Great 2024. Horrible defense, though. Can't play third base. We need to keep Pete, or if we are keeping Pete, he's going to assume DH, or that's going to sign Schwarber. Who knows what the deal is with Mark Vientos is my whole point. Nick Morabito, like I said, the Mets protected him from the Rule 5 draft by putting him on the 40-man roster just about a week and a half or two ago. So what is Morabito? I've looked at him, I've seen him, and I've said he may be like a Jeff McNeil light. Maybe if he steps into some more power, maybe he's a 15 home run bat. I don't know, but that's a maybe. He maybe develops into nothing. Jacob Reimer is essentially a Mark Vientos clone, okay? Guy can mash, hits from the right side, could be a 25 to 30 home run bat, has no position. Was drafted as a shortstop, didn't have enough speed. They moved him to third. They didn't like him at the hot corner. They put him at first base. He is essentially Mark Vientos reincarnate, okay? So I like Reimer, but I don't see how he's ever going to find a position to stick at. And the Mets have enough of that already on their current roster. So yes, I would part with Jacob Reimer. We know the deal with Jonah Tong, all the talent in the world. We're hoping that maybe he'll develop a third pitch. Maybe that last year, the control issues were just kind of a little bit of jitters, being a 22-year-old making his MLB debut to save a team from drowning. And it didn't work out so great, but obviously, this is the biggest blow in this potential trade. And then there's Will Watson, who some people have said could turn into a closer one day. He's got that nasty stuff, right? Like can get the velo up. He's got some pretty good breaking stuff. But again, maybe. These are all maybe. Prospects are suspects until proven otherwise. So I do this trade in a heartbeat, even with the idea of, hey, there's not going to be a negotiating window with Skubal to give him that extension. I still do this trade. Let him get his feet wet in New York, see how he likes it. I would do this trade in a heartbeat. And let's be honest, I still think that the Mets would have an opportunity to give him that extension. So, yeah, I do this trade, no doubt about it. Armand says, per Joel Sherman, Mets, Yankees among teams expressing interest in Trevor McGill. Okay, so we know the Brewers are looking to cut payroll, which is unbelievable. But yes, they are looking to shed some payroll. I said this in one of my videos for the Freddie Peralta trade. Hey, if they want to shed payroll, we will take on the $8 million club option that you handed Peralta and give us Trevor Williams as well, who is due, I believe, $7.5 million before he gets more and more expensive. This is the Mets' way of hedging against Edwin Diaz if his demands do not come down. That is what this report from Joel Sherman tells me, that the Mets are testing the market. They are going to see what it would cost to get Trevor McGill from the Brewers. They're going to go out and talk to Robert Suarez and talk to Pete Fairbanks, which were reported today. Mets spoke with both of their camps. They're doing their due diligence and putting the pressure on Edwin Diaz. And I'm okay with that. I want Edwin Diaz back. I have said in I don't know how many videos, the Mets have to re-sign Edwin Diaz. They must re-sign Edwin Diaz. Well, if his demands don't come down and they're unreasonable and he's not going to sign for anything less than 5 years and $100 million, you could do a lot worse than Trevor McGill, Pete Fairbanks, or Robert Suarez, especially when you already signed Devin Williams to be either your eighth inning in. So that is a really interesting report. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Armand. I am A-okay with that. I love the idea of McGill. Before I go to our next trade, let's actually take a look at McGill's numbers. And how cool would that be to have the McGill brothers in the Mets pitching